Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're looking to make a simple skirt with a little hint of fashion design, this is for you. Before we get started, my Instagram is @itsNicoleFoster and I post style ideas on there. I had used this fabric for my maternity shoot last year for a DIY head wrap and I wanted to use it again for this skirt. This beautiful Ankara print has bold red, yellow, navy blue, and even a hint of brown in it. The pattern I'm using today is the Simplicity 1559. It's great for a beginner sewing project, especially if you're looking to learn the basics of how to sew a skirt. So now let's get into it. The first thing I'm doing is I'm spreading out my fabric. The table I have was too small, so I moved to the floor. I had used this pattern before, so my pieces were already cut out. Just to note, this pattern does come with instructions on how to lay out the pieces onto the fabric. I'm using option F. So back to laying out the pattern, I'm following their recommendations on how to lay it all out. Now that I laid the pattern down onto the fabric, I'm just going to go ahead and pin every piece. I'm making sure the pins are tucked into the lines of the pattern so it's easier when I go to cut it out. So I'm making sure the pins aren't sticking out at all. When I get to the middle of the pattern, I just pause because I realized I had did something wrong. I was pinning both layers together. It's a layer of fabric right underneath that layer too. So when I move to the last one, I'm just going to lift up the fabric to make sure I'm pinning into the first layer only because I only need one piece of that one. I'm using my fabric cutting scissors to cut the pieces out. In the last step, I was talking about making sure the pins were tucked in, and this is the reason why. I'm able to cut quickly around the lines and edges. When I'm cutting, I'm making sure to cut as close to the pattern as possible. This allows for sizing to come out more accurate. When I pinned this section down, I had pinned 2 layers by accident, so I wanted to show what I meant by lifting up the fabric to make sure I'm cutting just the one layer. Here, I noticed I was pinning 2 layers, so I had already adjusted the pin, so I'm able to cut this section out more quickly. Before I remove the pattern off the fabric, I'm laying everything out so I can mark in the necessary places. This is why I think this pattern is great for beginner sewing or learning how to sew because it has features like sewing a dart, which is what we're about to mark. I'm using my serrated tracing wheel and wax-free tracing paper. I'm copying right over the pattern and following the triangle shape. And then I'm making the triangles in the corners, which are called notches. And what this is used for is so that everything can line up in the end. I like to mark both the front and the back. There are other types of marking tools out there, but I do think that the serrated tracing wheel is the easiest for darts, and I'll be sure to put a link for the one I'm using in the description box below. I went ahead and removed the pattern and pins from all of the pieces. I did want to try out machine serging, and I found that on my brother's sewing machine that the machine setting 04 worked the best. I used a stitching length of 3.0 and a stitching width of 5.0. I used machine serging on the whole project and I thought it worked quite well. I had shown how to use pinking shears in my last few videos, so I did want to try something new this time. So how does machine serging actually work? Basically, the needle pierces the fabric with thread, then it moves just outside the fabric, and then it moves back in, piercing the fabric again, and then it just continues like that in a zigzag motion until the whole entire side is serged. I'm going to start with putting the front of the skirt together. For these 2 pieces, both sides look like a mirror reflection of one another. I find that it's easier when I start seeing the pieces come together to know what goes where and how to adjust if I need to. So I'm just going to put these 2 together, pin it right up to the notch, and then just go ahead and sew it. Now I'm going to work on the dart. Here's where I marked from the tracing wheel and the wax-free paper. It's hard to see it on the yellow, but I promise you it's there. This is still the front side of the skirt, and I'm going to take where I marked and pinch the fabric, bringing it together. The 2 markings should line up. I'm going to take a pin and put it into the fabric to hold the dart in place, and then the rest is easy. I'm just going to take it over to the sewing machine and then sew right down that line, and then that's the dart. Another quick and easy step is placing the flap down in the front. Remember, right sides together. Then I pin it, and you already know what's next. Sewing it down. Now the front is basically done. What I'm going to be doing is moving to the back of the skirt, and I'm going to be installing an invisible zipper. So what I'm going to do is take one side of my fabric and lay it flat down. Then I'm going to take the zipper and place it upside down on the fabric. Once I notice that it's upside down, I'm going to unzip it and then pin it in place. I did swap out my regular sewing machine foot and put on a zipper foot. There is an invisible zipper foot that can be used to sew an invisible zipper. It allows you to get extremely close on the zipper tape. But today I'm showing how I install it with the regular zipper foot. Once the zipper foot is in, I'm sewing along the side of the zipper teeth and opening it up as I go. Once the zipper is in there, it gets pretty tight when the zipper tab and the sewing needle parts all meet up. So my trick is to zip the zipper up just a little bit and sew around that part. I just want to mention that a zipper is a sewing basic, and I think that once you've got darts and zippers under your belt, you can pretty much sew anything. So again, this is why I recommended this skirt pattern. Now let's finish up with how to sew an invisible zipper. So just like I did with the other skirt part, I'm going to lay the second piece without the zipper flat on the table. Then the fabric with the zipper sits on top of it, and make sure the zipper part is up. I like to think of this as an open face panini. The good stuff is visible so you can see what you're going to get. The zipper is exposed and we're going to pin it down. And then to double check that once it's sewed, it will be sewn properly, I open it up. I open it up and see how the zipper is going to look. Now, same as before, I'm just going to sew right in place. So the zipper is just finished, and now I'm going to pin the back. And just like I did the front, I'm going to pin the flaps at the top too. Now that I'm moving to the sewing machine, I'm going to sew the back first, and then I'm going to sew the flaps that's at the back too. I found that it was easier to do this all in one shot instead of separating out both steps. The back is now complete, and now I get to put the skirt together. I'm laying down the back of the skirt and tucking the flaps underneath. Then I'm going to be grabbing the front of the skirt, making sure the flaps are laying flat as well. Now I'm going to pin both right sides together, or for any beginning sewers out there, this basically means I'm pinning it so that the skirt looks like it's inside out. Now I'm going to be pinning it all the way down on both sides, and then I'm hitting up the sewing machine, sewing the front and back of the skirt together. So for my final touches, I'm going to be using a product called Heat Bond Ultra Hold. It's really easy to use. I'm simply taking a piece of the paper tape and ripping it off. Then I'm going to place it with the sticky side down onto the area that I want it to be adhered to. Right now I'm showing you how I did it at the top part of the back section. I'm grabbing my iron to run it across the fabric. It's important for the iron to already be hot and also for the steam function to be turned off. I'm going to go over it a few times, about 2 seconds, and then remove the iron. The sticky part is now adhered to the bottom of the fabric, but I need to remove the paper tape. I lay the fabric back down, then I go over it again with the iron until it basically welds itself together. I'm going to be using the same method for the hem. I had already marked where I wanted the hem to be and folded it over so I could see the crease. I'm measuring as long as I could and then repeating the steps all over again. Measure, iron, peel it off, iron again, and I'm just repeating the process until it's all done. This video is not sponsored, but I do love this stuff, and I highly recommend that everybody has some in their, arsenal of tools. I didn't want a hemline around the edges, like where you could see the thread. So I wanted to use this, and I had used this in the past and it works very well. So I'm going to use this to achieve the look that I want this time too. I wanted to make sure I got good adhesion with the Heat Bond Ultra Hold at the hem. So I did find that it was easier to get all the grooves by slipping the skirt over the ironing board and then going over it with the iron a few times that way. So now I'm going to modify the slit. This part was actually pretty easy. I had followed the pattern the whole time, and then when I tried it on, the slit wasn't high enough as I wanted. I knew that was going to happen because I did make this skirt in the past, and I did it the same exact way as I'm going to show you how I did it now. So anyway, I'm modifying it so that it can be higher, and this is that fashion design part I was talking about. A while ago, I had seen an ad from Bergdorf Goodman, hope I'm saying it right, and it featured an off-white hoodie with a plaid skirt. I'm not sure who the plaid skirt designer was, but I just loved the look so much that I wanted to make my own. And I had mentioned that I used this pattern before, and I used it for that skirt, for that plaid skirt I just showed you on the screen. So I wanted to do something similar here with the Ankara skirt and make a higher slit at the thigh. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my seam ripper and I'm just going to remove a few of the threads until it's at the height that I want it at. And to finish off the front of the slit, I'm just going to use the heat bond tape again. I'm using the same process as before. I'm measuring the paper tape, then I'm going to go over it with the iron and then remove the paper and then iron the fabric down again. And then that's it. I go over the skirt once again with an iron so it's not wrinkled. And this is the final look. Here I'm styling with a men's striped button up and black heels, but this skirt can be worn a bunch of different ways. I'm also showing how I wore it with a red hoodie and black Puma sneakers, but it can be worn with a white t-shirt and sneakers or with a sweater and booties. There's just so many different ways to style an Ankara print. I hope you guys like this tutorial. If you are planning to use this simplicity pattern, or if you plan on creating a skirt like this in Ankara or in a different fabric, a plaid like I had showed you before, I would love to know in the comment box below. If this tutorial inspired you in any way or helped you in any way, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks.